In Chapter 4, we're going to be learning about punctuation and about syllabification, and then you're going to begin the wonderful journey into the world of vocabulary acquisition. So those are the three things in this chapter. The chapter is much shorter than Chapter 3, okay? So let's start with punctuation. In punctuation, the Greek period and the Greek comma look just like they do in English, so they're not going to give you any problems at all. However, the Greek semicolon is a raised dot, and the Greek question mark looks like the English semicolon, okay? So the Greek period and comma look just like they do in English. The Greek semicolon is the raised dot, and the Greek question mark looks like the English semicolon. And that's all there is to punctuation. I mean, you're going to find brackets and dashes and stuff, but that's it for punctuation. Okay? All right. Let me say a few things about diacriticals. We've already met one of the diacriticals, and that's the diaeresis. Greek also has an apostrophe. It looks just like it does in English, and it does the same function, performs the same function. It marks where you've dropped out a vowel. It's an elision mark. It's a technical name for it. So, for example, you have the Greek word apa. Sometimes that final omicron is going to go away, and you're going to have op, and the elided omicron will be marked with the apostrophe. Okay? So there's the apostrophe. And then there's accents. Accents are the main diacritical marks in Greek. Originally, back in Koine Greek or before, we believe, and we don't know for sure, but we believe that the accent marks indicated musical pitch. In other words, they marked the syllable where your voice either went up, down, or up and down. And actually in modern Greek, that's the same function. But as far as standard pronunciation is concerned, most teachers are content with you simply placing stress on the accented syllable. Okay, so if you want your voice to go up and down, that's fine. But again, check with your teacher. But most teachers simply want you to place stress on the accented syllable. Okay, so there are three accents that you're going to learn. The first is the acute, and so this word is aiteo. Okay, aiteo. The accent, the acute accent is the mark that goes up, used to indicate a rising pitch, but for us now we know to accent the syllable with the epsilon. Okay, accents will always be on vowels, not on consonants. So the acute is the accent that goes up. The grave is the accent that goes down, originally indicated a drop in pitch, and so we say theos, theos. And then there's the circumflex, which indicated originally a pitch would go up and down. You can see that in the shape of it, right? And so we say hagnos, hagnos. Okay, so aiteo, theos, hagnos. Now there is some debate among teachers as to how much a student needs to know about the accenting system. For me, and I think for most teachers, but certainly not all, simply observing the syllable that has the accent and getting the students to always stress that syllable is enough. Some teachers will want you to know when it's an acute, when it's going to be a grave, and there's actually quite a few rules connected with accents. If you want to see them all, pick up a copy of my morphology, and I give every last single rule there is for accents. Don Carson also has a really good book on Greek accents. But I'm not going to ask you to learn all the different rules for when it's going to be an acute or when it's going to be a grave. I'm simply going to ask you to always note the syllable that has the accent and make sure you stress that accent. When it comes to pronunciation and then memorization, and those two are all tied together, it's really important that you pronounce these words consistently. I mean, if you say apostolos, 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 you can hear how different the word sounds depending upon what syllable I accent, right? So you need to be able to pronounce these words consistently, and you for memory work, you need to be sure to stress the accented syllable. Otherwise, they're just too hard to learn, okay? There are a few cases where knowing the accents will help you identify whether it's this word or that word, and I'll point those out to you as we go, okay? But that's it for accents, acute, grave, and circumflex. Just be consistent and get the right syllable, okay? All right. Syllabification. Let's move on to that. Syllabification is simply the process of dividing a word into its syllables so that you can say it. If you don't syllabify a word, you can't pronounce it. You just can't. So you have to break a word into its syllables in order to pronounce it. And that's what syllabification is. And there's two different ways to learn how to syllabify Greek words. Number one is to learn the rules, and I'm going to cover them with you. But number two is just listen to me. Just listen to your teacher. And what you're going to find, especially if you're a native English speaker, that the syllabification is very natural. Greek syllabifies very much the way that English does. And after you hear it for a while, it's just going to become a very natural thing for you to know where to break a word into its different syllables. And in fact, when I go through the vocabulary this time, I'm going to go very slowly and clearly syllabify each word. And I'll bet you that for the most part, when you're done with this chapter, you'll have syllabification down, okay? But there's always someone who needs to know the rules, and it's important to know the rules, I guess. So let me go through the basic rules of syllabification. Rule 1 is that there is one vowel or diphthong per syllable. So if you see a word like ake ka'amin, you go through, if you count the vowels, that's going to tell you how many syllables there are. Ake ka'amin. So this word has 5 syllables. Okay? All right, so that's rule number 1. Rule 2 is that a single consonant, and by single I mean that there's not 2 or more consonants in a row. It's a single consonant and then a vowel. A single consonant by itself goes with the following vowel. So if you have a word like he'orakamin, okay, you have the rho going with the alpha, the kappa going with the alpha, and the mu going with the epsilon. He'orakamin. Okay, that's just like we do it in English, so that shouldn't be a problem. Rule 3 is that 2 consecutive vowels that do not form a diphthong are divided. If you have the word etheasamitha, you have the epsilon and alpha. Okay, that can't be a diphthong because the second vowel of the diphthong has to be iota or upsilon, right? So you have to syllabify between them. So it's etheasamitha. Okay? All right, that's rule 3. Rule 4 is that a consonant cluster that cannot be pronounced together is divided. The mu-p combination can't be pronounced together. So you syllabify m-pra-sthen. You'll notice the sigma theta can be pronounced together, and so they go together. M-pra-sthen. Now, how do you know whether a consonant cluster can be divided, can be pronounced together, right? Or whether they're going to have to be divided? Well, again, you won't be many chapters into Greek until you're very, very comfortable with knowing that. If you need to know, one way to do it is to get a Greek dictionary, and for the example of this word, look up words beginning with mu-p and see if there are any. If there aren't any, then there's a chance, not necessarily, this is not a foolproof way, but there's a pretty good chance that that consonant cluster cannot be pronounced. So it's m-pra-sthen. Okay? But that's rule number 4. Rule 5. Rule 5 is just the flip side of rule 4. It says that if a consonant cluster can be pronounced together, then that consonant cluster is going to go with the following vowel. This is the word for Christ, and hero and sigma tau can be pronounced together. So they're kept together and they go with the following vowel. So it's Christos. Okay? Christos. So that's rule 5. Rule 6 is very much like the rule we have in English, and that is that double consonants are divided. So in this word, you have 2 rows in a row. That's your double consonant. And you have paresia. Paresia. Okay? So that's rule 6. And finally, rule 7 is that if you have a compound word, it's syllabified where those 2 words are put together. So in the Greek word for Antichrist, you have anti and Christos, so it's syllabified anti-Christos. Okay? Well, those are the 7 rules of syllabification. Not very hard, and like I said, as you get through even this chapter, you'll probably have a pretty comfortable feel for how to divide up Greek words, okay? Well, how's that? That wasn't too hard, was it? All right, let's go to look at summary and see what we've learned. We learned that there are 4 punctuation marks in Greek. The comma and the period look just like the English comma and period. but the Greek semicolon looks like a raised dot, and the Greek question mark looks like an English semicolon. We saw that there are 3 accents, the acute, grave, and circumflex, and the thing that's most important is to be consistent in stressing the accented syllable. And we also looked at the rules of syllabification, and they simply are pretty much common sense for someone who knows English natively, and perhaps other languages as well. Okay, don't know on that, but perhaps as well. Well, it's time to move to the vocabulary. And let me say some things about vocabulary acquisition before we jump into the words. For a lot of people, vocabulary acquisition is a fear factor. It's one of those things that makes you hesitant to learn Greek. And I'm not going to lie to you, vocabulary acquisition's hard. It's one of those things that is most challenging to most people. But I will tell you 2 things. Number 1 is that if you do not memorize and review your vocabulary, you are going to have no fun at all learning Greek. Okay, it's just no fun to try to translate Greek if you don't know what the words mean. And you can memorize all the grammar, you can memorize all the paradigms, you can do all of that kind of stuff. But if you actually open up the workbook and you have to look up half the words, there's no victory. There's no sense of accomplishment. I mean, you don't feel like you've done anything, all right? So you really, as hard as it may or may not be for you, you really need to memorize and then keep reviewing your vocabulary. If you haven't downloaded Flashworks yet, my vocabulary drilling software, from the website, make sure you do so. It's going to help you with this. It's going to categorize your words for you, the ones you know, the ones you don't know, that kind of stuff. But anyway, it's going to be hard for most people, but it's not going to be fun to learn Greek if you don't learn the vocabulary. But let me give you some statistics, and I think once you see these numbers, it's going to be a lot easier for you. When I was first starting to write BBG, I was teaching in a university, and I went to the teachers who taught Spanish and German and French, and I said, how many words do you make your first year students learn? And I frankly was shocked. It was in the vicinity of 2,000 words. In fact, I think it was the French teacher made her students learn considerably more, all right? But on an average, about 2,000 words for first year German, first year Spanish, first year French. That's a lot of vocabulary, all right? Let me give you some statistics to compare against that number of 2,000, okay? There are 5,423 words in the Greek Testament. Those 5,423 words occur 138,167 times. Okay, so over 138,000 word occurrences in the Greek Testament. Now, we're not going to learn that many words. Okay, don't worry. If you collect all the words that occur 50 times or more in the New Testament, there's only 313 words. 313. Now compare that to the 2,000. Okay. Now, if we were just learning Koine Greek, if we were learning to read Greek to be able to read Josephus and Philo, then we couldn't do this. But because we're learning New Testament Greek, there's a set number of words. Okay, so we can focus in on them. 313 words occur 50 times or more. That's 5.8% of the total vocabulary. It's not that much, right? I'm going to ask you to learn the 313 words, and then I'm going to ask you to learn 6 more for various reasons. So all that you have to learn are 319 words. Now there's some extra words in one of the final chapters. It's kind of fun words that you can learn if you want to. But if you know those 319 forms, you not only know all the words that occur 50 times or more in the New Testament, you know 80% of the word occurrences, that 138,000 number, you know 8 out of 10. So you open up your Greek Testament at the end of BBG, you're going to be able to identify 8 out of 10, 4 out of every 5 words you're looking at. I figured there was enough to learn in first year Greek that I didn't need to give you a bunch of extra vocabulary. Now, when you go to do second, and you should do second year Greek, I'm sure your teacher will want you to learn more words. I used to teach down to 10 occurrences. It's somewhere between 1,000 to 1,100 words. I don't remember exactly what it was. But you will be learning more vocabulary, certainly, in second year Greek. And near the end of BBG, and it's been interesting, I've often been criticized for this, but I kind of thought it was a favor for you. There are some chapters where there's only 4 or 5 words. because you've got almost all the 313 down. So maybe your teacher will give you some more words in those chapters to learn. I won't, but maybe your teacher will. All right. So you got 2,000 words in first year German, French, or Spanish, or you have 319 words in first year Greek, okay? Yes, vocabulary is hard, but that's not that many words. Okay, and when I stress this in class, I find that for the most part, I don't hear much complaining from the students about vocabulary. And by the way, when it comes to vocabulary, please go to the online class. In the vocabulary section for each chapter, I have got so many mnemonic devices and silly ways in which you can that'll help you memorize your vocabulary. There's a place for you to even record your own silly mnemonic device. I mean, I've got a friend singing old hymns where we intersperse Greek words with the hymns just to kind of help you memorize them, all right? I mean, there's all kinds of memory stuff in the vocabulary sections on the online class, in the online class. So make sure you go there and learn and use all the helps you can, okay? And please contribute as well to the mnemonic devices. Okay, that's all I really wanted to say for the challenge of vocabulary. So we're going to walk through our vocabulary now. And again, what I'm going to do is the first time I'm going to say it, I'm going to really break the word into its syllables. And then I'm going to pause, and that's going to give you some time to get the word in your head. And then I'm going to say it again, and I want you to say it with me the second time, all right? And then I'll give you the definition. All right, well, let's go at it. Angelos. Angelos. And I know the oo and the ha might be confusing, but just ignore that for the time being. I'll talk about it in a later chapter. Angelos means angel, messenger. Amen. Amen means verily, truly, amen, so let it be. Anthropos. Anthropos means man, mankind, person, people, humankind, human being. Apostolos. Apostolos means apostle, envoy, messenger. Galileia. Galileia means Galilee. Graphe. Graphe means writing scripture. Doxa. Doxa means glory, majesty, fame. Ego. Ego means I. Eschatos. Eschatos means last. Zoe. Zoe means life. Theos. Theos means God, both capital G and lowercase g. Kai. Kai means and, even, also, namely. Cardia. Cardia means heart, inner self. Cosmos. Cosmos means world, universe, humankind. Logos. Logos means word or the word, meaning Jesus, John 1, capital W, or statement, message. Pneuma. Pneuma means spirit, capital or lowercase s, wind, breath, inner life. Prophetes. Prophetes means prophet. Sabbaton. Sabbaton means Sabbath or week. Phone. Phone means sound, noise, voice. And you already know this word, Christos. Christos means Christ, Messiah, Anointed One. And now we'll do some proper names. Abraham. Abraham means Abraham. Dawid. Dawid means David. Paulus. Paulus means Paul. Petros. Petros means Peter. Pilatus. Pilatus means Pilate. Simon. Simon means Simon. So how was that for you? It wasn't too hard, was it? Well, of course, a lot of that vocabulary has cognates in English, so they're easier words, but you got a good jump on your vocabulary. Now, be sure you don't leave your vocabulary sections without looking at the chart that sits at the end of every vocabulary section, okay? This actually wasn't my idea. A friend of mine, Tom Schreiner, was talking with me, and we were talking about how to make Greek easier and how to encourage people. And Tom said, well, why don't you put a chart there that shows how much they already know? And I go, what a great idea. So thank you, Tom. And be sure you check these charts, so they're really important to see. Let me walk through this chart with you. There are 138,167 word occurrences, or word counts, in the entire Greek New Testament. You now know 26 words. Those words occur 15,958 times, and which is the same number in the next row. That number will obviously grow in other chapters. But look at the final row, the percent of total word counts in the New Testament, 11.55%. That means, okay, even with these 26 words, that means you open up a Greek text and you start looking, you will know one out of every 10, more than one out of every 10 words. Now, the word kai occurs a crazy number of times, and so most of the words you'll be recognizing are kais. But hey, you know over one out of every 10 words that you're going to see when you open up your Greek text. Pretty cool, huh? All right. So get your chapter down, get your vocabulary down, and you can get on with the workbook, okay? All right.